Give people what they need versus what I want, and let people trust their instincts. These are the wise words of Chad Parenteau, a partner in W. Smith Insurance in Swift Current, Saskatchewan, had to say about getting a team to fly in the metaphorical V formation. Now, listen to all these insights and how he and W. Smith better the pond. My name is Warren Berry, and I'm your host and the founder of Instinctive Solutions. So get ready to take a deep dive on the Better the Pond podcast with my guest, Chad Parenteau. So, Chad Parenteau of W. Smith Insurance out of Swift Current, Saskatchewan, aka Speedy Creek. I have been waiting, I don't know how long, to get you on the Better the Pond podcast. Chad, it is absolutely amazing to have you today.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
We've been working together for what, 5 years now, I guess, somewhere along the lines.
4 or 5, yeah,
Four or
definitely.
five, right? I've
Yeah.
seen just this, incredible company that you and Will Smith and Paul Hagelin have built together and have created just an absolutely not only amazing company within Swift Current, but also all the things you've done for the community. And I said when I was there last, I said, Chad, I think this is something that we need to share with the world to basically let them know what you're doing to make the world a better place.
Thank you. I mean, I would back up a little bit and say I didn't build W. Smith. That's a 111-year-old business. So she was on very good foundations before I jumped at the helm there.
Let me reframe that. How you and Will and Chad and Paul have helped shape the present culture
We
and the
did some
company.
changes. I will say that we did some changes. That was a big thing for me when we first took over W. Smith. Was when you do have 100+ year old business, it's don't change anything.
Mm.
It's obviously been running a long time. Something is right. So we quite literally for the first 4 or 5 years, we didn't really change much. And you kind of bonk your head against this wall, against the same thing over and over and over again. And eventually something has to give. So you decide to make some changes, which, thanks to your help, we were able to do some pretty cool things.
Cool. Well, we'll unpackage a little bit of that today. So
Mhm.
before we get going with things, I think we should probably do just a wee shout out to our good friend Derek Lothian of IBAS. So he gets a shout out. We can tag him in this. And Derek was actually really crucial in with the Insurance Brokers Association of Saskatchewan to put together programs and things for the insurance industry. And that's going back to how I met Will
Will,
and yourself. Yeah, Will, especially right from the beginning of this. And so if it wasn't from that initial introduction, we might not be having the podcast we're having today. So
did you
shout out to
work
Derek.
with Derek with something else previously, or how did that work? I don't know the story.
Uh, no, it was actually I got introduced to Derek and we started having conversations and then basically they started talking about this leadership development program and one thing led to another and that's how this whole thing started.
Here we are. Thanks, Derek.
Yes, thanks, Derek. All right. So before we jump into a little bit about you, Chad, tell my listeners a little bit about W. Smith. Who are you and what do you do?
W. Smith is an insurance brokerage in Swift Current, something you did touch on there. Founded by William Wensley Smith in 1913. He came over from England, settled in Saskatchewan there. I don't know exactly what year he settled, but definitely by 1913, he had started an insurance office. 4 generations and 111, I think, years later, I now work with Will Smith, who is now the fourth generation partner, and then obviously Paul Hagelin is with us as well. So a lot of years to cover. I don't know how much details you want in there. My dad was also a partner in W. Smith. He moved from Yorkton. He worked for SGI Canada, and he was a product rep, similar to what Paul Hagelin was prior to joining W. Smith. Actually, their transition is actually they mirror each other quite well, actually. And at that product rep role, I guess you know a lot about the industry, you know a lot about different brokerages and kind of where the biggest insurer in Saskatchewan, SGI.
Mhm.
is going. So, it's a really good, knowledgeable person to have. So yeah, when my dad came through, they just kind of offered him a job and said, do you want to join? And it worked out well for him. So we up and moved to Swift Current. I wasn't alive yet, but in thought,
Good
I
thoughts.
I moved. My sister was alive. She was alive at that point.
All right.
So yeah, so they moved from Yorkton to Swift Current, and then yeah, so I grew up in a insurance family. My mom worked for SGI, my dad SGI as well, and then obviously WW Smith for 30 some years, and then him and my dad and I worked together for I'm gonna say close to 10 years before he retired. So
Right. Wow.
yeah.
Do you know, and I think this might have been brought up last time I was there, if memory serves me, going back to the original reason why WW Smith had actually started in insurance.
I don't know that one.
Do
No.
you know that?
Well, they did a whole bunch of things. Like we find old advertising things that's like, so we obviously were in travel. That was the most recent one that we let go. But there was like WW Smith implements and like all sorts of stuff that those guys were up to.
Mhm.
Financials. Yeah, there's a lot of things. Yeah, he had his hands in a few things. He was the cool thing with the original founder there is he was in quote unquote show business there. He live plays at the Lyric Theater. They have pictures of him, which is pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah, so that's where Will gets his acting chops from.
Acting jobs.
Hey,
I
there's
just
there's
looked.
videos online. You can look them up
All right.
of Will.
Well,
Yeah, no,
acting.
no, yeah, oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Should we put that in the show notes?
You can.
Okay,
Will
I just
Will
got
would love that.
permission.
I'm gonna throw Will under the bus as
All
much as
right.
I can here today.
It's official. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
I just think it's fascinating though to think of back in 1913 of what was the population of Swift Current then, and what opportunities were there, and here's an entrepreneur that comes from England to say I'm gonna jump into the insurance industry, and to
Well,
start this thing off from nothing.
just like most people, nobody really gets into insurance on purpose. I don't think. I feel like it's an opportunity that's there, and then you end up liking it. To be honest, like nobody's like, what I want to do when I grow up. You don't hear a 6-year-old say that.
Say,
I want to
Mom,
be in the insurance. I want to be an insurance broker when I grow up.
says no one ever.
Maybe my kids actually they actually maybe said that, but
Uh,
other than that, I know I went the opposite way. My dad actually made fun of me because when I was in high school, he had brought that up, and I had said something pretty rude, I think at the time, that was like I'd rather kill myself or something like that. And he remembered that line because obviously after we were working together for so many years, he liked to throw that in my face because I did like it. I mean, it's a good job, so it's kind of a funny thing. So
which is you just preempted my first question of the day. So you're just
okay,
walking right into this. So
oh great.
Chad, I want to know what got you from being a Gosling. And I mean, this is where like again, your sister started first. You weren't alive back then, coming into Swift Current, but from your beginnings of being hatched in Swift Current,
Mhm.
right? To leaving the nest, right? So when you decided to go out on your own, right? Either you might have left on your own, decided something was a good idea, or your parents said, you know what? Here's the
It's time.
kick. Get
It's
out and
time
learn
to.
to fly.
It's time to go.
It's time to go, yeah. And,
Uh,
and to
I
where you
still
are
am.
today, to where you are today. So Chad Parenteau, what is your backstory?
Well, I still think I'm a Gosling. I just wear adult clothes. That's all. I mean, I'm a kid at heart. I just want to have fun. So I think that was quite literally the only reason I left the house was I wanted to go live in the mountains for a bit. So I went up to a couple of ski hills, a couple of winters in a row, spent all my money, came back, worked construction, and spent all my or made my money to spend it at the mountain. And then just finally one year I said, this isn't way to live, I guess. Got to try to get ahead at some point. So I asked my dad if he's because he always bugged me to work with him. Um and yeah, so I when I said yes, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I spend most of my time at the front counter just talking to people. I don't know. It was easy.
Just stand here and talk.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Especially growing up, right? Like I always laugh at this job because when I grew up in high school, we had MSN Messenger, so we were typing with our friends and on phone calls, texting, stuff like that. And I just really think that my job is quite similar to the same thing. I just send emails to people and make phone calls. It's just I talk about what most would call a pretty boring subject, insurance. So um, just have fun with it.
The only time it gets exciting is when something bad happens where people are in a pickle.
Yeah, that's not necessarily true. I mean, what ends up happening in those days is your heart drops and you feel like you've aged. I always say that those moments take years off my life, but um, it's when somebody brings you something new and they're doing a new business or they're looking at insuring something different and something that might be difficult, right? It's not the same thing over and over and over again. So those are always the fun one. New businesses, new operations, things like that I haven't come across, because that's like I talk about this job being interesting sometimes, and it's from a commercial standpoint, you to understand how to insure somebody correctly, you have to know what they do. So you kind of get a crash course on their operations, how they do things. You have to take a look at their risk, and so you got to get to know them, right? And so that's always the fun part, I guess, is knowing how the cogs turn and what's their risk. So it's fun, and it's always different. I mean, I shouldn't say it that way, but some are definitely the same. I mean, if you're going to insure 5 different contractors that all do slightly different things, admittedly that's similar, but sometimes something new comes across and just makes things exciting.
There you go. So I want to pull you back a little bit. I want to go back to I want to go
You're
Chad.
having a hard time
Chad
keeping
be
me on track.
Oh yeah, no. I already know how you roll. So um growing up, so young Chad, right? You're hatched, you come into the world, your parents are excited for a while anyway.
Nervous.
And but no, what was it like being young Chad in Swift Current, Saskatchewan? So growing up as a kid and maybe getting into your
Mhm.
teenage years, are the things maybe that excited you, or is it no kid gets up in the morning and says, "Gee, Dad, I want to be an insurance
Mhm.
broker." So, give me a little more
Sports.
meat on that bone
Sports.
when it comes to your backstory.
Yeah, so as a kid, so I mean, it was sports. Played every sport. I was obsessed with them all. So, I would say I'm quite obsessive with certain things that I like to do. So at first, it was hockey and, sit, shoot pucks for hours, or soccer, play the game by myself in the backyard. Basketball, same thing. It was always an obsession. And if I couldn't do it, then I just tried until until you could, right? So that would probably be my pretty young life, I would say. Moving into the teenage years, I maybe like to get in a little bit of trouble a little bit more. And lifestyle changes a little bit. And that's when the music thing kind of took off, as you can kind of see behind me. So then the next obsession was playing guitar and whatever lifestyle maybe a rock star might live there. Yeah, so that was kind of the high school thing. I did not apply myself at all in school. um yeah, I mean, it was just sports and music really at the end of the day. And then as I left high school, it was moved on to snowboarding, and then since I guess 2007 it ended up turning into insurance, and then now here we are.
So interesting enough, right? So, I mean, first of all, were you actually like the rock star of Swift Current?
I was not the rock star of Swift Current, definitely not.
Okay, just checking.
I wouldn't say that.
Okay. Would other people say that?
I played at a lot of parties, but never like, I mean, I didn't have a band or nothing like that. Well, I did at some, whatever, but no.
So,
I wasn't old enough to play at the bars. Let's put it that way.
oh, okay, got it. Well, just because it wasn't you're old enough doesn't mean you couldn't get in. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I look young now. Guess what I look like then? Yeah. I did.
I've
I
I've
wasn't,
actually
I wasn't sneaking into bars, big guy.
I've actually seen pictures. So
Yeah,
so interesting enough though. So you left when you said you didn't apply yourself and you left high school, and you left on your own. So obviously it didn't sound like you didn't get kicked out of the nest. You decided to fly. Am I hearing that correctly?
definitely. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, no,
but
I don't think I ever, I mean, let's get my mom on the line here. I mean, I definitely lived at home for a little bit after high school. I mean, because every time I left to the mountains, I came back, I always came back to Swift, and I always lived with my parents for a bit. But yeah, eventually that got old, obviously. So
Here you are.
yeah.
So,
So
so here's my question is, when you look at, and I look at a lot of times with parents, these are discussions I've been having lately, and there's always sort of seems to be this natural push, say, well, kids, get a, get an education, get a university degree, go to university. There seems to be this common push for kids to do that and parents to push their kids in that direction. So instead
uh,
of you doing the
my my
whole
my my parents knew better. They would have known that would have been a waste of money. I
S-
would have been what do they call it? A December graduate? I bet you I think that would have been me.
but it's interesting though, even though they may know that ahead of time, there's still this natural push, right, of spending all this money because you're going to get an education. So, so instead of the University of Saskatoon or the University of Regina, apparently you took the University of Life. But what was the allure to the mountains that drew you in that direction?
I just love I just love it out there. I just think the fresh air, the mountains, the green trees, the just nature, I would say was it. I mean, and I obviously love snowboarding, so being able to do that every day for winter. I mean, like I love winter. I love snow. I just like it better when there's an incline or a decline. A lot better than in Saskatchewan when it's just flat.
Yeah, we're not. Saskatchewan's not really known well for their
for
snowboarding.
their elevation drops, definitely not.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
of zero.
yeah.
So there's
But yeah,
there's
so
no
I don't
doubt.
know. I don't know what else to say to that. I mean, it was just something that I wanted to do. It
Mhm.
was like I say, definitely the obsession. My parents were okay with it, like I say. I mean, I look back and maybe, with the soccer thing, like I definitely could have went to university with that. But again, I just know I mean, I didn't, I mean, I didn't apply myself in high school where there was a little bit more push to force you to go. I doubt I was going to do much better at a university where they don't care if you show up or not. So
Hmm.
I don't know how that would have played out.
Yeah,
Actually,
interesting.
I got a pretty good idea.
It wouldn't have been, but it would have been an expensive lesson anyway.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Didn't need it. Didn't need it.
didn't need it. So
Yeah.
the University of Life. There you go. So going into the insurance industry, right? Is that something? Do you ever think that you would have ended up where you are today doing insurance if it wasn't for your dad? Or do you think there would have been some kind of allure into that industry?
No,
No.
no, definitely not. I wanted to do music. I was signed. I lived in Vancouver my last year doing snowboarding. I worked at a hill called Cypress Mountain, and I started meeting with. There's a school out there. Pardon me. This is two stories. There's a school out in Vancouver, which I forget the name now, where basically do music production. So I want to be an engineer, music engineer was my plan. So I lived out there, but like the school was so expensive there. So I ended up moving back to Saskatoon. My wife, girlfriend at the time, wife now, was in Saskatoon, and there were some guys there that were just starting this brand new school in Regina, or pardon me, Saskatoon, called Recording Arts Institute Saskatoon. Shout out to those guys, love them. And they wanted me to be their first student. And so I was like signed up to do that. And then I ended up back in Swift Current, and then that plan kind of fell to the side. But my dad gave me a really good compliment the one time. He said, whatever I would have put my mind to, I would have been successful at it.
Mm.
And my idea for that was I wanted to run like a bar basically, and then have a recording studio on the side, record live bands was my goal for that one. But had a whole plan, but didn't have to do it. So
Is
well before COVID. So there you go. I would have had quite a few years under my belt before bars got shut down. So
true. Is that something that still sparks your interest?
music. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I kind of giggled, right? So that was another reason I went to insurance. Was I mean, I now have, I'm lucky, right, with what I do,
Mhm.
and I have some expendable income to buy the toys that you can see behind me. So I have and I can show you around here, but I got quite a few recording gear in here. So I still do it for fun. So it's not like that's stopped, right? But I just didn't get the formal lessons that I probably could use. But yeah, so I still do it for fun. My kids are actually into music now. So my son actually, he's learning drum lessons. So him and I actually will I'll play guitar and he'll play drums. He's only 8 years old, so it's pretty cool to see him doing that.
That's very cool.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so it's super fun. So it's something that I'm happy that I definitely happy I took the road that I took. I'm definitely not looking back. I'm really lucky with my life actually. But I'm glad that I still do all of those other things still. Like again, we've got snowboard trips that we still plan on doing, and it's just and I always giggle about that stuff too, right? Everything ends up being a job no matter what you're doing anyway. So
Mm.
at some point, right, you're going to complain if I would have done the snowboarding and recording engineer in the mountains. Guess what? At some point, I would have been frustrated with a day. I would have, it doesn't matter what it is. It's people will complain about something. So
Oh, that's true. Actually, that's interesting. That's an interesting point. Saying that, everything becomes a job in the end, right? So no matter
yeah,
what you're doing, you're still employed or employable or
yeah.
right to
Or
do work.
fighting for a job or, trying to, you know, however, you mean everybody's got to make money.
Yep. Oh,
So
that
yeah,
is true.
yeah.
What's before we move on, sort of looking back, your past instead of getting into the insurance industry and kind of where you are now, what would you say is the number one thing that you absolutely love about doing insurance?
Well, obviously, I mean, talking to people, I again, just getting to know people from that perspective. But this job's also given me a lot of ability, I guess, to help others. That again, if I was running a music recording studio, I don't think I would have the same ability to do the stuff that we're doing as an office right now. So yeah, definitely, I think the two things would be that. Definitely love, again, I just love talking to people,
Hmm.
getting to know them. And then, like I say, it's just these other things that I know we're going to get into them later. Um, but yeah, definitely some of those fundraising things that we do to me feels really good. That makes me feel really good.
Awesome. That's what we'll get to. So,
Yep.
one last question. Well, one kind of two. What do you think is the biggest lesson that your mother taught you growing up?
My mother.
Yep.
Oh boy, I hope she doesn't listen to this. I don't know, honestly. I mean, I guess just compassion probably would be the biggest one. Um, yeah, I think that's got to be it.
Okay. And what about your dad? What's the one number one lesson you think that your dad taught you?
I think it's just perseverance, right? Like if you want to get better at something, then you just got to keep trying. He was always, I mean, I talk about, me kicking soccer balls in the backyard or shooting hockey pucks or, I mean, basketball. I can vividly remember basketball. And him and I working on my jump shot. And I kind of giggle just now because my daughter's starting basketball now, and I I just want to be really careful how I do it. Oh, I don't know. He was good that way. But um, yeah, I mean, definitely just he always helped me. He always gave me the tools that I needed for everything, whether it was, again, music. I mean, I didn't buy my first guitar, right? Like my dad did. Soccer, he built a soccer net in my backyard so I could kick
Hmm.
into it. Because, well, I think he partly did that for himself because I was wrecking the fence, but um but yeah, things like that, right? All of those things, we talked before we got on air that this morning I took my daughter to 6 in the morning soccer practice this morning. Well, my dad took me to 6:30 a.m. hockey
Hmm.
practices, right? Like all of those things. Um, so maybe the better thing to say actually on that one instead of perseverance would just to be there, I guess would be what I'd say.
Hmm. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. So, what's the number one greatest thing, and can be either positive or negative, that's happened to you in your life that's ruffled your feathers? And how did you respond to it?
Well, I think the thing that changed me the most, and this would have happened right before um we met in 2018, I was diagnosed with cancer.
Mm.
Um, and that was, before then, I definitely thought I was invincible. I always giggle, thinking about how I would have been different during COVID, during those years, because basically the year before I was masked up. I was immunocompromised. I was that person that everybody, you know, said you were doing everything to warn them for, or protect them against, I guess. Um, so it definitely, so I mean, I went through that, and then I was done the program, I was out, by the time COVID hit. So, but I always wonder about, and I had a really tough time through treatments. I mean, anything that could have went wrong, I did. I had blood clots, I had
Oh,
reactions, I had all sorts of fun stuff. My blood or white blood cells, what was it called now? I forget the name of it, but basically my body stopped making white blood cells. So I had to go into isolation for a while. Like it was quite, it was short. Okay. Like I got lucky. That's another thing I got to say is I got really lucky with the cancer I had. Um, if I know, I remember one of the doctors saying, kind of saying, as a young man, if you have a lump or a bump, this is the one that you want,
mm,
just because the success rate is so good. But the treatments were hard, and
mm.
um, so when I came out of that, and one of the girls in my office even brought it up. She said, I feel this changed you a little bit, and I think you'll react. It's not the right word she said, but a little bit more empathy, I guess. That
Mm.
I don't know if I had maybe prior. A little bit more understanding, maybe let's put it that way. Because again, I'd never been through anything like that. So, I mean, again, my entire childhood, my entire adult years was, in my personal opinion, pretty easygoing. Like I don't, I, I was always lucky with, you know, um, yeah, I don't know how much. I mean, other than me not trying in school, I didn't really have too much troubles with much things.
Not a lot of stress going on.
Not a lot of stress. No, definitely not. No. So yeah, so when that hit, that was different, right? You definitely find out that you're definitely not invincible. And yeah, so that was just really difficult. That definitely changed. And then I kind of had a little bit of a run of, my wife, she had it would have been a year or two later. So my wife, number one, got me through my cancer treatments. Without her, it would have been impossible. So I was always so thankful for her, obviously. Um, because she carried everything during that time. And then I wish I remembered the year, but it was a year or two later. I got to repay her favor. She had a really bad reaction to a drug that's pretty normal. Most people take it, actually, which is the shingles vaccine.
Mm.
And she had to take it. And they're not 100% certain. They don't know exactly what happened, but she ended up having a reaction that basically sent her heart into AFib for, like, she ended up getting shocked, I think, I don't know, 15 to 20 times that day
Oh,
to get her heart going again, because it just kept seizing.
yeah.
And then yeah, so then finally they got her stable, and then she was in an induced coma for 3 or 4 days or something like that, until they could
Oh,
get her heart, because her heart rate um wasn't beating right, I guess. So there was always, it would kind of go a few times, and then it would kind of falter a little bit.
yep.
And basically they had to wait 2 or 3 days for that drug to get out of her system. And then again, it was like, I always asked the doctor, I said, we're 3 days later. Her heart rate is looking normal now, because I could see it on the screen. This is when she was still under. And the doctor's like, Chad, you're asking a really good question. And it's, why did it happen? And we don't know. He goes, all we know right now is she's stable, and we're going to keep her that way.
Mm.
So So it's definitely a lot of assumptions on it because basically she's a one off on that ever happening in that scenario. So yeah. So anyways, she, so there was kind of a little bit of a role there where our family was dealing with hospital stuff. My dad had a stroke and yada yada yada. So I would say as a combination, just a whole lot of health issues over since 2018 on that. Definitely, I would say changes a guy.
Well,
But it's a different perspective on life. Let's put it that way.
well, I was just going to go there. I'm not dwelling on the bad things with the way that happened, but I kind of look at this and say, was there a defining moment, or was there something that really sort of shook you to the core that may have changed how you see life, or how you look at people, or how you may respond to things through that experience?
Well, through all of them, I mean, it's again, I think you got to feel, I mean, and I'm not religious. So, I mean, I always kind of say interchangeably, lucky and blessed. To me, they're the same thing. Either the universe is making you lucky or, there's a higher being that's blessing you. It's one or the other. And so for me, okay, I had cancer. It sucked, but I had a good one. I had a type of cancer that, is treatable. I got through it. My wife, she had that reaction with the drug, sucked, but there was an opportunity actually for us to take that drug and then get on the highway to go to from Saskatoon to Swift Current. Based on, if we would have started driving when we were supposed to, that reaction would have happened while we were at the landing, which is, half an hour to an hour, 45 minutes away from any help. But instead, we had a great nurse, and he basically said, hey, if you're not feeling right, then let's just watch you overnight again. And again, with my job, I said, hey, it doesn't matter, we can I can work anywhere, so it doesn't matter, right?
Mhm.
So I always feel blessed for that reason, lucky. um and yeah, it's just, you just got to take a look at a shitty situation and see the silver lining, I guess, a little bit, which is, that's how you can kind of keep moving forward. So
Love it. Yeah, looking at taking a positive approach. And what I like, first thing what I like to do is focus on what's going right instead of what's going wrong, and it really helps change your mindset.
hmm and just be thankful for it all, right? Like, I
Mm.
mean, it really was, again, I don't, again, not religious, but I definitely like the idea of being thankful for things. So at the end of each day, it's, this sucked, but I'm glad that that person was around and got us through it. And
Mm.
you know um whatever it might be at the time, I guess everything's different, but yeah.
Well, I do
Try
know
not to
you,
try
Chad.
not to ask, for anything. That's always my big one. Always
Okay,
got to
trying
say
to ask for
thank you.
anything.
Yeah.
And I know you well enough to know that say that I do always see that positive side to you, right? Doesn't matter what's going on, you always manage to see the positive, or believe in the best in people. Um, when
Everything's an opportunity.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. There it is. I'm writing that down.
$20.
Okay, sold. We'll deal with that later. All right. So as you very well know, because we've done a lot of work together with yourself and the team at WW Smith, that geese do fly with 71% more efficiency when flying in the V formation. Um, from your experience and what your thoughts are, is what do you think the secret is to getting a team or a company, because you're a small company, flying in that metaphorical V formation?
You got to get their input. I mean, that's the biggest one. So I don't do their daily tasks, right?
Hmm.
So for me to understand where their roadblocks are, or their, what's slowing them down or what's difficult, you got to get their input, and I guess openly hear them out. I definitely went into how we restructured our office with my own ideas. 100%. I definitely had a vision of what I wanted. And really, for me to get from point A to point B, I definitely needed to go through their streets and say, okay, how do I make this work based on what you need, not by just what I want, I guess.
Mm,
And that was the biggest thing, was just making sure that I wasn't bringing something in that made their life either tougher or how to make their days easier, really is all I wanted to do. Um, and yeah, so that was kind of the biggest thing, is we got them involved right from the get-go. I will say that when we brought you in, it made those conversations easier because they, I guess, trusted us a little bit more.
mm,
Um, and just knew that what I was trying to do was to help them at the end
mm.
of the day. And what the vision was. Yeah. So definitely, you just got to get them involved. If you try to do it top down, um, they're going to fight it, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Um, unless it's, you don't have to do anything for 8 hours and we'll still pay it. I don't know.
Yes, do nothing, we'll still pay
Yeah, they might like that one, but
you. Would
um,
they?
yeah, some people, not all though. I think some people get bored. I got staff that definitely get bored and quit. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I guess that would be the big one for me, is you just got to understand their struggles and then implement whatever you're trying to do with those in mind. Um,
Well, it's interesting because one of the things that I talk about when speaking is when geese, fly in that V formation, the lead goose actually flies lower than the rest of the flock. So the lead goose actually creates lift for every single goose in behind it when they're flying in that V formation. And it was just interesting what you said, right? Is that by trying to, say we're trying to force them, right, or do the top down, right? So, I would say nature doesn't try, nature just does. So
mhm.
naturally, with the lead goose flying lower creates lift. Often in businesses, we try to do the top-down approach. And I think what you said was really, really smart. And I've never really heard it sort of phrased that way before, is, helping them get what they need versus what I want. And that is such a different approach to leadership.
And I'm gonna kind of shoot myself in the foot here, because again, sometimes people go into, I want to look for some data and I'm gonna find the points that I want,
Yes.
right, to help
Yeah.
me get to what I need,
Hmm.
or to show them. And I will say that I definitely went into a lot of, like, I definitely had my plans kind of pre-made,
Sure.
but it was okay. Just, is it going to work, I guess, is the big thing. But yeah, that's why I kind of feel bad saying that, because it's like I definitely, like, things didn't change drastically, but I definitely got their input on what small tweaks needed to be made, and things like that. Or um I mean, our automation was huge, for our office. It just takes away those daily tasks, that to me were just working on the computer, but not for the clients. It was like serving a computer system instead of the clients.
Right.
Right. So that was the big one, is how do I get rid of that stuff? But which I knew I wanted to do right from the get go. So, but yeah.
Well, and as I say, is that going faster, it's not about going faster. Going faster is about getting rid of resistance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you get rid of resistance, you go faster with less energy. So that's kind of what I just sort of heard you say, was taking some of those daily tasks, a little bits, you took away some of the resistance, also got their input, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
allowed you to actually fly further and
Yeah,
faster with less energy.
definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. Love it. So now here's the meat and potatoes, and this is why I really wanted to get you on the podcast, Chad, is here's the spotlight. What are you and we'll call the and W. Smith, because it's not just you, right? It takes a village.
Definitely.
Um, what are you doing to better the pond? What ripples are you creating out there in the world, Chad?
I've told you about my history,
Mhm.
and I always make the joke that I'm always lucky that I'm not living under a bridge somewhere. Uh, so I'm always thankful for the stuff that, honestly, my dad, set me up for. At the end of the day, I said I definitely would not have gotten into insurance without my dad being there. I just wouldn't have known about it, right?
Mhm.
I don't think that it's I don't know. I don't believe that would have been my first go-to. So all those things that I feel pretty lucky for. My life, again, like I say, it's been pretty simple, other than a bit of a blip there
Mm.
with the cancer stuff. But yeah, so we're pretty lucky. We're in a very good community that supports us. So we and I should back up a step, insurance brokers in general. So again, this isn't just WW Smith, but if you go to any hockey rink, you're probably going to see a sponsorship board across, small town Saskatchewan. There's going to be the insurance broker there. You go to the 4-H club, you're probably going to see, any small town, any small brokerage. I sat on the IBAS board, so I'm definitely a believer of the small brokerages there. So I would say as an industry, not just WW Smith Insurance, but as an industry, insurance brokers, I do believe help the community across the board. I don't think that there's many that don't. So definitely want to put that out there. It's not just us. But there were some things, and WW Smith, the previous owners, Chuck Audette, Gord Smith, Dave Perano, Bob Armstrong, and the years go back with all the Smiths as well. Um, you know, they've sponsored things for years and years and years and years and years and years. And we just wanted to take it to a little bit higher level, I guess, is all that we tried to do. Try to push things a little bit further. We did a kind of a rebrand, if you want to put it that way, of the local broker. We were the last local broker in Swift Current, and that wasn't owned by major corporation somewhere. So when we did that, I basically turned to Will and I said, "Hey, if that's our brand, then we need to prove it. We can't just say it." So obviously we were out there all the time sponsoring so many things, but a lot of them were just really, I don't want to say really small, because I'm sure those groups love them, but $250 there, $500 there, just shotgun splatter
Mhm.
everywhere, right? So I said, let's do some really big splashes a couple times throughout the year. So the first one, I guess, would be the golf tournament that we do,
Mhm.
that we've
I've
hosted.
attended.
Yeah, which is called
Super
the
fun.
Hazard Hole Golf Tournament. So the whole idea to that one, well, is we wanted to do prizes for bad shots and good shots, so we could attract more people to come in, and fundraiser basically. So the first year was for Rustin Paul, which was a young girl going through some, I believe, leukemia treatments. Don't quote me on that. And we raised, I forget how much money for her. We have to, I'm going to say around $6,000. Don't quote me on that either. I didn't write that one down. Should have wrote that one down. But we helped her out, and then we also split that with another group in Swift Current, so she didn't get the whole thing. The following year, this last year, we raised money for Christian Reinhardt, who we were able to donate the whole fundraising effort for her, and that was over $9,000, which was amazing. So it was a local girl in Swift Current here, woman, pardon me, uh, has kids in soccer, same program that my daughter's in, and yeah, so she just has, I guess, ever since she was a young adult, she had a condition that just progressively got worse and worse and worse and worse. And it got to the point where she had to basically reset her bone marrow with a new transfusion. So she was kind of down and out for quite a while. So I knew the family quite well. They used to live behind us, and I went to high school with her sister, and knew her brother-in-law really well. Just obviously Swift Current being pretty small, so I just wanted to raise money for them. So we did that with them, and that's kind of a couple years going now, and that looks like it's going to be something that we can keep kind of going. So we're going to keep continuing to find a local area that we can help out in any way. So that would be the first one. That was kind of the first big splash that we did, and then our golden nut ring, our nut ring fundraiser. So the first year we ran that one, there were no golden nut rings. There was only nut rings for sale. And so what we did is these are nut rings, and I kind of wish Will was here to talk about it, but his mom created the recipe in the 80s at some point, and we just gave them to commercial clients. So we would make them. It was kind of like a homemade gift that we would do, and we did them for years, obviously all the way through. It's a big used to be a big party where we would make them. It's not anymore. And yeah, so there's a couple of reasons why I switched this up a little bit. So the first one was, our staff work really hard. It's a production line for us to do, and in my opinion, I got all the credit by taking them to my commercial clients to go hand them out, or Paul or Devin or whoever, right?
Mhm.
The girls at the front of the office who spent just as much time making them as I did, even more, because I'm not in the production line as much as as they are. Surprise, surprise. So I wanted something that they could feel good about, that their efforts were recognized as well. Um, and obviously just wanted to help the community out. So what we did is we pulled 50 aside the first year, and anybody who came in and donated $100 to the Salvation Army Community Meal Program, we would match that, and then they got a nut ring. So it was, they're quote unquote buying a nut ring, but really it's a donation to the Salvation Army Community Meal Program, and we would match it. So the first year, I think we got around 6 grand, and that was successful, I would say, for the first year.
Mhm.
The second year, we things were going really slow last year. We didn't get the walk-in traffic that we had the year before, and I don't know why that happened. I can't answer that. So I decided that instead of letting this thing kind of fall on its face, because I didn't want to raise less money than I did the year prior, which is a problem because eventually I'm gonna have to come to grips with that, but I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know when that's gonna happen. But yeah, so the second year, it was going a lot slower. So I decided to create the golden nut ring, which was, guess what? The same nut ring as the other one, just wrapped in gold paper. That was the big marketing change there.
Well, but it's now a gold nut ring. It is not just a regular. It is not a regular nut ring, Chad. It is a gold nut ring.
Yeah. So each community meal, so I guess I should maybe explain that one a little bit. Each Wednesday at the Salvation Army, they create, by with the help of volunteers, they make a home cooked warm meal for individuals that may not be able to afford that, or be in a place in their life where they can get something like that.
Mhm.
Maybe just they're homeless, or living in a hotel that just doesn't have a kitchen, or whatever it might be. So various different reasons. And each meal costs $500 in supplies, and then obviously they have volunteer cooks that will make it and serve it. Usually it's a church group, or a volunteer based group in town, where they'll go in and do it. And it gives these individuals obviously a good meal, but also a sense of community. They get to eat in a big group of people. They, some of these people don't see others that often, so for them to be sitting in a room, they can, human interaction is important.
Mhm.
So it's more than just the meal, and then a lot of the times there's leftovers where a lot of these people can take another meal home. So
Mhm.
again, that's another day of sustenance. um I knew about the $500 cost just by talking with Arlene, who's the program manager there. Amazing woman, well organized, love her to death. Um, so I decided that if we could sell, again, quote unquote, sell these golden nut rings for $250, we would match the $250, and together that's a whole meal. That's one day. That's 1 week taken care of for them. So the big thing that I push out to the golden nut ring peoples, which we've worked again this year. Actually, I'm pretty proud of ourselves. We reached out to some new businesses this year, and we offer them advertising, basically, right? So it's okay, you donate $250. So first off, you're going to get a tax receipt for that from the Salvation Army. So again, that's going to them. They're going to deal with that. We're going to go out and advertise your business for you through our Facebook, because we actually have a pretty good following in Swift Current here. So so we go take a photo with you, we advertise what you want us to talk about, whether you're doing something with the community, obviously, sponsoring this meal. But maybe there's some other stuff. It's the Christmas holidays, so whether you've got whatever. We just push out whatever message you want, and then obviously get the recognition from the community for being a part of it. So we really worked on making it kind of like a no-brainer for. So it's a lot of extra work on our side. It's
Mhm.
not just I mean, I could probably just as easy write a $9,000 check and walk away, from it. But this way it gets the knowledge of the program out there. A lot of and actually Arlene did tell me this, that more people actually donated just on their own afterwards, just because the news of this thing was going around so much that
Mm.
that people that maybe didn't know about the program or what the program was about. And then the other benefit, I guess the last benefit to this was when it's fully funded, they don't have to take, because there's two sides to it, right? The Salvation Army Food Bank, and then there's a Salvation Army community meal. If they don't have to take food out of the food bank to provide the meal, then obviously that's more food, because that's what a lot of people do, right? In Christmas, they because I asked her where they need their I thought I would go in there with this fundraiser, just be like, here's a whole bunch of groceries,
Right.
but she said actually no, they needed more help on this other side than they do,
Mm.
because people because there's and Love the Hutterites around Swift Current here, they drop off food constantly, from Arlene told me, whether it's chickens or so they're always dropping things off, so I got to give them a big shout out as well. But yeah, so it's those are, I guess, would be the two big ones, and then like I say, there's other stuff that we do, but they're all really small, I would say, less big than those two big splashes. So
Well, and I just had to put this out there because as of this in this past year, right, you were the recipient of the Community Leadership Award that was sponsored by IBAS. So we want to make sure that that is recognized, Chad, for the
yeah,
work that you've done, right, and for the Swift Current region.
I giggle, okay, so and I shouldn't say it that way, but I kind of, I don't want to say laugh at this, but I won that, and I mean, it's very nice. I definitely am not gonna, I'm not gonna sit here and complain about it for sure. But I did kind of laugh about it because, and I ended up talking to Arlene afterwards, because she was a part of the video, and I guess to me, and I guess it's all perspective. I didn't think I was helping out as much as as I was, and I kind of said it there for the nut ring thing, right? Like a lot of it was advertising, right? We want to get our name out there, we want to do these things, and then you talk to the Reinhardts, and then they talk about how much stress that relieved off of just
Mhm.
the financial side of things, which I knew I was helping them, but I guess I just didn't think it was to the extent of how they felt about it. Same with the Salvation Army. I mean, this is a huge fundraiser for them. That takes um, that takes months off of their fundraising efforts.
Mhm.
If we've got 4 or 5 months funded, not fundraised, but funded for their community meal program, like that takes off, I'm sure, a lot of stress for her to get that thing going, and it reaches a lot of people.
Mhm.
Um, And then I guess the only other thing that I could add in there for myself is, and this one I definitely do for me because I love it, but I coach a lot of youth soccer. So, um, but I love coaching. So if I could retire right now and do full-time soccer coaching, I would.
Well, I love it. I mean,
but
I
but but
really
Will told me I'm not allowed to leave yet. So
okay. I know you're humble, but really, truly, it's want to let you know, I see it from the outside view of WW Smith, and you can clearly see the impact that you and your team and the people from the organization, right, are creating in your community, right? It does make a difference, right? That makes a big impact. And so I appreciate your humble, but right, it
well,
is good
you got
appreciated.
you got to look home first. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's the big thing is we definitely cleaned up our own backyard, and we before we started, doing, I guess, some of the bigger things that we were doing. But we definitely had to clean up our own backyard first.
Mhm.
So, um, which I think was going to get to your next question, probably. We
What
might
is what
we might be able to lead into that one. Segue.
Okay, what's the segue? The show is now yours, Chad. Go.
Well, you just said, you said, what would you say to the next entrepreneur?
Yeah.
And to me, it's, trust your instincts. You gotta, if you're just gonna, and I told you at the beginning, we ran our head year after year into a wall, on the same things over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And if all you're gonna do is sit there and complain about it and not fix it, then to me, I mean, again, I don't really have a lot of sympathy for that. Um, hold on, sorry, I got another. Um, I don't have a lot of sympathy for that. The people that are just, they complain and they don't actually try to fix anything.
Mhm.
So we had to go in, we had to try to figure out what was going on, work with the staff. And then, like I say, I was so scared of making any changes to WW Smith again, because it's 100 and some years old. Um, it was a tough decision to do, but again, we had to trust our instincts that what we were doing was the right thing, and moving forward, it worked well. So very lucky. We got lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luck, where opportunity meets preparation.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
yeah,
Sorry, I got distracted there. My phone keeps ringing like
yeah.
crazy.
Well, they're a popular guy, right? I mean, the Community Leadership Award winner, right? Everybody wants a piece of you.
Well, it's nice. So that community award, we haven't announced this yet. So breaking news. Part of that was there was a 7,000, I think $200 cash that went along with that prize. There is a group in Swift Current that runs the center, is what it's called, and it's for youth. It's kind of like a hangout spot for kids. They actually run a very similar meal program on Wednesdays as well, that I found out. Um, and it's a really cool spot. They've got, you know, kind of like a restaurant, a coffee shop in there. Um, all sorts of games, whether it's video or in person kind of arcade style games. It's a really, really nice spot. And I've known about it for a year, but I didn't know, pardon me, for a long time, but I didn't know as far as their reach was. Um, they do a lot of mental health services, for which is actually a big expense. They've actually got guys with like master's degrees to basically do this. It's not just anybody, and it's like a not volunteer. They get paid, but it's all free to those individuals. Um, so they do a lot in the community. So, and that's something that we haven't worked with, in my opinion, as much as I would have liked. So
Hmm.
we are actually working with them on our donation for that. And they've kind of got this kind of fun play area, that, like I say, has all of the, um, whether it's VR or all sorts. They actually had a little recording studio in there too, actually,
Hmm.
which is
Very
kind of
cool.
cool. Yeah. And yeah, where I guess they can go in there and make beats and stuff. He goes, the one guy's like, a lot of rap coming out of here. Yeah, no rock stars, come on. But yeah, so we're working with them. We haven't quite worked on exactly what we're doing. I kind of had a bit of a vision on what I was hoping to do. But yeah, so we're working with them right now, and I'm hoping by the new year we have kind of an announcement on what we've able to give to them. So
Love it. There you go.
yeah.
See,
Yep.
another ripple effect going on in Swift Current.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's fun. It's like I say, I enjoy it. I mean, it feels good. It's another thing that I kind of giggle about, right? Is it's like this stuff feels good doing it. So
Mhm.
it's I joke, if it ever stops being fun, or if, then I might not do it. But um yeah, I enjoy this. I feel lucky that I'm able to do it. So
Giving is self-serving.
yeah, probably. I mean, it feels good.
Yeah,
Like,
giving is self-serving,
yeah,
right? It feeds itself, which that's
yeah,
that's the beauty of it.
yeah.
So I have
So
one more question for you, Chad, before we
oh,
wrap up. If you were standing on the top of a mountaintop and the whole world,
do I have my snowboard?
you sure, but you can't run away just yet. You have to stay there. So before you depart,
Okay.
you're standing on the top of a mountaintop with your snowboard, and the whole world is intently listening to you. What would you say?
Listen to somebody else.
That's inspiring.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I I'm not smart enough for that stuff. So I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I can't let you off the hook.
What do you mean you can't let me off
I
the
can't
hook?
let you off the hook. What would you
I
say,
I
Chad?
I can, I can definitely end the call on my own.
The world's listening to you. What would you say?
I honestly don't know. It would see that's the problem. I'm a very sarcastic human being, so it would be something that you shouldn't listen to. I mean that. It's if I could get a laugh, I would try to get a laugh more than try to bring a tear.
I would love it. So yeah. So what would you say to get a laugh?
I already did it. Listen, next guy will be right on stage.
I'll be on my snowboard.
Yeah,
Listen
see you
to
later.
him.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Too funny. I do appreciate your sense of humor. I really do. All right. So
I shouldn't be giving anybody advice. Let's just put it
yeah.
that way.
Okay.
I told you I'm a kid at heart. So
I know you don't do well without adult supervision. I get it. I get it. So I would say that I'm in grade five. I've only grown up physically since. Right?
I
I
agree.
get it.
I
I get
get
it. All right, Chad. Well, I do want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your stories. I do want to thank you for everything that you're doing to better the pond, because I really strongly believe that it's not just Swift Current that you're serving. The ripple effects that go out from those people that you do serve, it goes way, way beyond, I think, probably what you could ever imagine. So, when you throw the pebble in, you don't know those ripples just keep on going out. So we really, really do appreciate that.
from an insurance perspective, there are some big things that we've changed as an office that definitely have served the province as a whole. That I'm really proud of actually, and some of the things that I wish my dad was around to still see. Because yeah, I know the changes that I've done on a couple of big files. I'm really proud of. So definitely, I definitely know it goes past Swift Current on some things. But yeah, I appreciate you having us on. I appreciate you, like I say, thanks for Derek for having you meet Will, because again, I've said this to you in person, I don't know if it would have went as smoothly with those changes that we tried to bring in without first dealing with the feelings within the staff, let's put it that way, and getting kind of everybody to kind of trust Will and I's vision a little bit more. So I really don't believe it would have went as smoothly without your help. So thank you as well.
Well, thank you. It was a lot of fun. I love working with you guys. I absolutely love it. It is just it's it's work and fun all wrapped up into one.
Yeah, and we'll keep doing it. As experienced by the last month you're here, so we'll keep pushing forward.
Absolutely. So if anybody wants to find you, Chad, where do they go to find you?
Swift Current 208 Central Avenue North. Is that what you mean?
Well, that's physically. So if they want to walk in your building, but if someone's
Right.
from across the world,
I do have a LinkedIn page that I don't honestly pay much attention to. Probably our Facebook page for the office is the one that you're going to catch the most updates for the office. I'm constantly in those photos. If you need to see my pretty face, if yeah, that's really the only two that I would recommend for here. Um, my personal Facebook account just has snowboard trips and family trip stuff there if you want to see what my family's up to.
there you
But
go. We'll put those in the
but I
show notes so that people want to
but
find you.
but I think the LinkedIn would be the best one. Yeah.
Okay. The one you don't look at.
I do. I pay more attention to it now, I gotta admit, but it was definitely something that, I think I've had it for I don't know how many years now. But I'm starting to pay attention to it a lot
Hmm,
more than I historically have.
got it. Perfect. All right. The one thing I have to say before we wrap up here, Chad, is a word that you've used, a lot today was the word lucky. And from what I knowing you, I don't think it's luck. I just think that you're really smart, you're really compassionate, and it's the perseverance, the thing that's the lessons that you learned from your parents wrapped up into one that's made you who you are and the impact that you're having on the world today. So I don't think it's just luck, my friend.
Very lucky, just lucky. Just right place, right time. Things just fall into my lap. I won't take credit for
Where opportunity meets
it.
preparation. All right. So there you had it, folks. We had a great time with Chad Parenteau from W.W. Smith. And this is Warren Barry, and I'm flocking off to take you beyond the pond to better the pond because we're better together. So much. Thank you so much today, Chad. I truly appreciate your time and all the work you're doing.
Thank you very much. Appreciate being here.